feeling like you're kind of in one of those places in life where your body just isn't responding, or it's being sluggish, or it's being stubborn, there are things that can help that process reverse itself.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Busy People Getting Fit. Today's guest is someone who brings science, sweat, and strategy to the world of health and performance. Dr. Tiffany Watson, known as Dr. Tiff, is a PhD in health and human performance, a performance coach, and the author of the Metabolic Makeover, 8 Weeks to Macro Mastery. She's here to help us understand what's really going on with our metabolism, how to fuel our bodies with intention, and how to break through the noise of bad diets. If you've ever wondered, is my metabolism failing? Then this episode is for you. Let's dive in with Dr. Tiff. So first question, do metabolisms actually fail in people? And if so, how will I know if it is happening to me? Dr. Tiff.
Well, hello, and thank you for the invite. I'm excited to chat today about metabolism and all the things. The first question you asked, I think, is a little bit of a strong word to say our metabolisms fail. They can adapt, certainly, and they can become less optimal, certainly, as we get older, as we go through ebbs and flows of weight loss, after we have babies, if big life transitions happen. So things can cause our metabolism to be less efficient or less effective. But the cool thing about metabolisms are that they're very adaptive. So even if they adapt down and become maybe suppressed over time for various reasons, they can also rebuild and get strong again. So if you're feeling like you're kind of in one of those places in life where your body just isn't responding, or it's being sluggish, or it's being stubborn, there are things that can help that process reverse itself, and it takes time and it depends on the situation. But I just think people think their metabolism is quote unquote broken, and that really is impossible to do. None of us have a broken metabolism.
So my understanding of metabolism is that it is highly correlated to your lean mass.
True.
What else, so first of all, is that true? And then what else is my metabolism correlated or impacted by?
Sure. So when we look at our basal metabolic rate, and basically that just means how many calories do we burn just sitting, not exercising, not doing any of the number of things most of us do through the day. But you're right, the majority of our basal metabolic rate is based on how much muscle mass or lean mass we have on our body, because muscle is an active cell, whereas fat is more of a dormant, sluggish cell. So the more we can have that optimal body composition, which is kind of a buzzword right now, right? Like, what's your body composition? What's your percent body fat? The more lean mass versus body fat we have, the more calories we will burn at rest. That's one component of it. You can also look at gender is going to contribute to that, right? Men are going to have a higher basal metabolic rate than women are, just genetically speaking, hormonally speaking, also because they tend to have more muscle mass, right? So you can look again at that direct correlation. There's a minimal impact of food and digestion, so the thermic effect of food. So as we eat foods, and certain types of foods require more energy to digest, that can impact how efficient our metabolism is as well. So those are kind of the big players in what boosts your metabolism.
Okay. So you mentioned body fat percentage, and if we think, but maybe between both genders, men and women, is there a percent body fat that we don't want to go below? Because I think anyone listening to this podcast recognizes that too much body fat is bad, but is there a number that's too low?
Well, if we look at scientifically speaking, for men, essential, meaning the absolute minimum we need to just keep our hormones and our body functioning and healthy, is 3 to 5% body fat. But we're talking, I've maybe had one client over my 20 years that was 5% body fat, and he was an elite high school endurance athlete. So that's a very athletic, very high intensity, high volume. And for women, it's going to be higher. Women tend to carry more body fat for various reasons. But for women, it's going to be 8 to 12% is considered essential. So anything below 13% is going to be pretty high risk for a female.
Okay. The reason why I'm asking is because I have, I don't know what your experience has been, but I'm talking to a woman who's at 25, 30, even 35% or higher body fat. And she's worried about losing weight because she doesn't want to get too lean, and I'm like, we're nowhere
you're not
close.
quite there. That's right. Well, and if you look at what's quote unquote optimal, sort of healthy, if we want to use that word, 18 to 28% is kind of the range for women where you're carrying enough to keep hormones ideal, especially if you're still in like the fertility stages of your life. You want to make sure you have enough body fat to be producing enough estrogen and keep your menstrual cycle regular. And of course, body fat helps just with a number of things, just from a overall just organ function. But usually, and then if you're post babies, you could probably live leaner than that, because if it disrupts your menstrual cycle and you're already having less estrogen, it's not going to more drastically impact bone density levels. But anything below 18 is really unnecessary.
Okay. From a health perspective.
For sure.
Okay.
And then for men, 10 to 20.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say men, 10 to 20 is that sort of sweet spot. You're out of health risk, but you've got enough to kind of keep testosterone levels and performance and recovery and all the things. Sub 10%, again, that's going to be the rare case of a pretty competitive athlete probably, or just somebody genetically that holds a lot less body fat, that just, we call them like a hard gainer, just somebody that just always really long and lean.
Yep. Okay, what about age? We talked about gender. What about age? How does that impact our metabolism?
With age, again, we always are coming back to this muscle mass piece, right? So as you age, you lose muscle just from the aging process. We don't have the same collagen in our muscle to keep it healthy and strong. We don't have the same ability to build muscle because of the hormone levels down regulating with age. So again, the basal metabolic rate is so directly correlated usually to how much muscle mass we have. And I think too, you have to the reality of when we get older, we can't train the way we used to train. So being able to put the stimulus together with the food to actually build new muscle becomes more limited as well. So that can kind of cause things to just slow down, and all of our systems slow as we get older, just because we slow down. So.
Okay, so there are a couple of points that I want to pull out from this conversation that you mentioned that I want to make sure people understand. The first is our basal metabolic rate, our metabolism is directly correlated to our lean mass. And our lean mass, as you mentioned, changes and in theory reduces as we get older.
Correct.
Having said that, if we're still working out, if we're still lifting heavy weights, if we're still eating protein, if we're still eating the fruits and vegetables, getting in those plenty of micronutrients, still eating healthy fats, then we can still maintain, or at least do a better job of maintaining our lean mass. Is that correct?
For sure. I mean, it's an uphill battle because you're fighting just the natural transition of our bodies. Our bodies are going to start to lose some of that lean tissue as we get older. But to your point, there are behavioral choices and changes and daily things that we can do to at least offset the reality that that's going to happen, instead of just throwing our hands up and saying, well, I'm getting older, I'm losing muscle, this is just how life is. And I think that's, it can't ever hurt you to try to combat the aging process. We can't stop it, but we can definitely do everything in our power to keep ourselves and our longevity as high as possible. So,
and I guess that's what I'm trying to argue against, is the throwing up our hands in the air and saying, oh, well, I'm getting older, this is just the way it is for me to lose 2 pounds of lean mass every year. And no, it doesn't have to be that way. We can, maybe you are going to lose muscle mass or lean mass this year, but let's make it 0.2 pounds instead of 2.2 pounds, or something like that, right?
Well, and I think too is just being able to understand the modifications from a training and a nutrition standpoint that can help to support that. I see so many people in their 40s, 50s, 60s that are still trying to train like they were 25 and they're just not able to recover. So then they're breaking down all the muscle that they do have. So they're not doing themselves any favors. You've got to figure out what's my minimum effective dose, meaning what's like the minimum I need to do to keep this muscle healthy and strong. Because if you overdo and then you're not eating appropriately and you're overtraining, then you're just going to get the breakdown side, but you're never going to get the rebuilding side.
Okay, so when you're talking about overtraining, what would be overtraining? And I'm asking this question. I talk to lots of people who are fearful that they are overtraining because they worked out twice this week. So in your experience, what has overtraining looked like?
Yeah, I'm definitely talking more of like these folks that are doing the unlimited pass at a HIIT class boutique training studio and going to these like 45-minute crazy HIIT classes or CrossFit type of workouts 5, 6, 7 days a week because they paid for the unlimited, and we need more time to recover. And some of that's individual, right? Some people, like you, may be able to handle a lot more volume, but I think people, to your point, it's like they don't know their threshold. You've got to learn. So you might have to go through a phase and see like, how many days did it take for me to recover? How long was I sore? Am I getting nagging injuries? So there's like those two bookends, right? There's minimum that's going to even cause an impact. And then there's maximum that you can't recover from. So you do have to do your homework a little bit. That's a hard question to answer for everyone. But I think you have to figure out and know that you're pushing yourself enough to get any adaptation.
Yeah. Yeah. So, for anyone who's listening to this and not aware, I own a boutique CrossFit gym with unlimited unlimited passes. And we do have people who show up 5, 6 days a week. We're not open 7 days a week. The difference between us and us at CrossFit Blue Eagle versus what you may find at anywhere else, especially at a gym where coaching isn't a highlight at that gym, is that our program, the intensity of every day is different. So we don't go, if you think of intensity on a scale of 1 to 10, where we need that minimum effective dose of 5+. If you're not getting 5+, we're not, that was the same as going on a walk, which is not going to lead to muscle building, for example. Well, on day 1, we may be at a 7. On day 2, we may be at a 9. On day 3, we're at a 5. On day 4, we're up at an 8, right? We're ebbing and flowing. So that, just as you mentioned, if we don't allow our bodies to recover, then all we're doing is just breaking down, and breaking down.
Well, and I think the flip side of that, like you can do that, but you also have to eat for that.
That's going to be the next topic.
Yeah, I think you've got that, but if you're not feeding it, because the breakdown, as you know, happens in the gym, the building and the strength comes with sleep and nutrition and hydration. And so you just got to know, again, both pieces of that puzzle.
Yep. So now that's a nice, beautiful segue into nutrition for recovery of a workout and nutrition to help our metabolism. So what thoughts can you share? Let's start with this is a metabolism conversation. So let's start with what nutritional tips or guidance do you have for our listeners when it comes to their metabolism?
So I think that for me, it's about positioning. So metabolic positioning means you have to give your metabolism a chance to go into a deficit, meaning that you have to give it a chance to be starved of energy from food enough to be looking for energy in stored sources like body fat. That's how we get into body fat utilization. And so I think too many people are not spacing food appropriately, or they're eating really high volume, and then their body is just constantly feeding off of what they're consuming. So we do have to find the right spacing. For me, that's 3 to 4 hours between meals minimum, to just try to give your body a chance to actually need to use stored energy for fuel.
Okay.
And then I think too is just being consistent, because I see a lot of clients, they'll be 3-4 days, they'll get in that deficit and they're working out, they're sleeping, they're hydrating, they're meal prepping. And then they got that 2 days a week where they're going out to eat, they're boozing.
We call that the weekend.
Yeah, they're doing all the things. And so they just keep trading 2-3 pounds back and forth. So they're never positioning their metabolism to continue getting into fat utilization. So they might get in a little bit of a deficit, but then they go surplus. And so then they pull themselves right out. So they just stay stuck in maintenance because, there's the deficit, but then if again, 2 days is surplus, and then you might just be living in maintenance mode. So if you're somebody that feels like you're just stuck, you've really got to audit. Are there a couple, 2-3 days a week where maybe you're off plan and you're pulling yourself right back out? So.
Yeah. I don't have my calculator in front of me, but 2 days out of 7 is a very high percentage.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you. Well, let's just say maintenance calorie intake is 2,300 calories, and 5 days a week you're eating 1,800, which is a 500 calorie deficit, which is pretty average, moderate deficit. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you're like dialed in, you're working out and doing all the things, and stress is managed. And then you're at 3,500 on the weekends, which is really easy to do. If you go out, have a couple drinks, order a meal, don't work out, like 3,500 2 days a week and 1,800 5 days a week is 2,300.
Yeah.
So you're stuck. Your average is maintenance.
Okay, so I want to have you repeat that again. I want to have do the math for us again, because I don't. People need to understand what you just said.
Okay, so if I am looking at what do I need to just maintain my body weight, and I were to figure out that my maintenance calorie intake to maintain my current body weight is 2,300 calories a day, and then I think I'd like to go into a weight loss mode or fat loss mode, I need a deficit. So I put my calories at 1,800, which 2,300, we take 500 calorie deficit. We're at 1,800 calories, and I'm doing that 5 days a week, and I'm dialed in, I'm working out, sleeping, doing all the things. So I've got a deficit, but then 2 days a week, I eat 3,500 calories, going out, drinking, meals out, whatever. So if I do that math, then 5 days at 1,800 and 2 days at 3,500 is an average of 2,300 calories. So you're all of a sudden still stuck at maintenance.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think people are shocked. By that.
Yeah. And it is frustrating because you're like 5 days, like I'm on.
Correct. I've done it.
And it could even just be 2 meals. I mean, I'll be honest with you, because if you eat your normal 1,500 calories and then you go out and you eat 2,000 calorie meal with drinks, like it's literally could be 2 meals derailing you.
Yeah.
And then you roll in the next morning, you wake up, you don't work out, you go to brunch, you do the thing. It's like 2 to 3 meals could do
that. People have been shocked when, they go out to eat with me, yes, we're at a nice restaurant. Yes, we are enjoying ourselves. And what do I get? I get a 6-ounce filet mignon with a side salad and grilled vegetables, and for dessert, I might have like a little tart, that is 2 bites, and was another 70 calories or whatever. Yeah. It's not, I'm now going to get the large casserole plate dish of, the Italian food with all the cheese,
Family style for one.
Correct. The family style for one. Exactly. The family style for one.
Yeah. I've looked at menus for 20 years. Clients will send me menus if they're going out, and I help them kind of navigate that. That's part of my coaching process and a service I offer. So they'll say, hey, Tiff, what would you get here? I'm going to dinner, or I've got this event. And sometimes I literally have to text them and be like, just stay home.
Yeah. Yeah. A new restaurant.
I have no idea, it's just hard. And even some things that quote unquote look healthy, like even like a side of Brussels sprouts. Well, the oil and the sweet sauce and the things, and you can't even really taste the vegetable. And it's so frustrating for somebody that does enjoy cooking and cooks a lot at home and go out, and you just know what you're eating is not prepared the way you would like to put in your body. And I think a lot of people just don't, because they just don't know the difference. The palate is just different. If you're not used to cooking, you don't taste the difference. So that's where I would urge people to just spend a week. If you're just not somebody that does a lot of cooking, is just do it. And then you'll notice the difference when you eat out, and you'll be a lot more aware of what you're eating.
Yeah. Yeah. Sticking with nutrition, what does a meal, you were talking about, let's say the 1,800, calories in a day during the weekend. What does a meal, just at a high level, generic, what does that meal look like to you?
Well, I mean, I think that obviously depends on your goals, but just for a general person that's training moderately intensely and consistently and wanting to maybe lean out a little bit, I think that for me, what I see the biggest challenge with folks is not overshooting their fat intake. So I would say keeping your protein as lean as possible, because then
Okay.
you can add your own fats, right? Like if I get chicken breasts and extra lean ground turkey and shrimp and some good fish and eggs and egg whites, right? I can like very easily control my fat intake because I can
Yep.
decide how much oil do I want to cook it in? Do I want to throw butter on my sweet potato? Do I want to add some avocado to my, rice bowl or whatever? But if I already am eating really high fat
Yep.
protein choices, then it makes it a lot harder to create that balance. So I would say lean protein, to your point, lots of veggies, lots of really good green veg, and then always some kind of a complex carbohydrate. So, whether that's a brown rice or a sweet potato or beans or oatmeal in the morning or a whole wheat sprouted grain bread or pasta. I think people undereat carbs probably more than they need to in many cases. But again, if you're somebody that struggles with carbohydrate intake and you're eating, and that's a trigger for you, then you may
Yeah.
need to stay more in the fruit veggie family. So, people listening, I know we're all on kind of different journeys, but for me, it's like I look at my plate and I say, what's my carb? What's my fat? What's my protein? And I try to make sure I have some component of all of those macronutrients on my plate. And then I know I'm getting a good balance.
Okay. Um, what switching gears just a little bit, we talked about nutrition, but you had also mentioned sleep for recovery. How does sleep impact either our recovery and or our metabolism?
I think it's just the hidden gem. I mean, so many people are not sleeping enough, or if they are sleeping, they're not sleeping well.
Yeah.
They don't have a good bedtime routine. That's something for myself that I've really committed to this last year, is having some time before I go to bed where I turn the tech off, where I turn the TV off, where I am not just ruminating thoughts and working and doing all the things, and try to either read or do a crossword puzzle or do some prayer and devotion, do something that just brings all the nervous system down. Because
Okay.
when we're sleeping, if we're still in this fight, flight, high cortisol, all the things, like none of our systems are recovering and down regulating. And that's where sleep becomes such a piece of the metabolic process and how we digest and how we absorb and everything. I mean, sleep is that time for our body to heal and recover. And if we're not, ever getting down off that high, then it is disrupted.
Our bodies operate between two different systems. The one system is fight or flight, and the second system is rest and digest. And we need that rest to help our bodies recover. Here is the insanity of the world that we live in right now. By the way, I talk to people regularly who want to improve their health and their fitness. They want to live a longer life. They want that life to be of a higher quality. And I'm like, hey, we need you working out. We need you getting out of breath. We need you lifting heavy weights, whatever, heavy is going to be different for each person. We need to be doing that 3 to 4 days a week. And they're like, no, that's too hard. Okay. Okay. Well, another thing you can do is literally nothing, like sleep. Well, no, I don't want to do that either. And like we're living in this world where working out is too
No,
hard
but I want what
and
I want,
sleep.
Brian. I want what I
Yeah,
want.
I'm like I don't know how to make my prescription easier than I want you to lay there
Just
and
sleep.
do nothing. No, I don't. I want.
No.
I
Yeah.
need to be entertained, or I
Yeah.
need right. I,
That's right.
I,
Well, and I've had, there's been a few clients of mine recently that have had to take almost a year of just bringing stress levels down, letting everything just chill out. Adrenals were just, I mean, they couldn't lose weight. They weren't sleeping. Their body was sore all the time. They stressed mentally, emotionally. And it's like, you don't want to get to that point. You want to
right. Yep.
find a rhythm where you are ebbing and flowing. And it's fine to go do some really intense workouts 3 or 4 days a week or 5 days a week. But again, you have to have the flip side that's allowing you to do that. Like you can't ask your body of things and then not respect it on the other side.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Thank you. for sharing your insights. Before I let you go, I have some quick hit questions for you.
Okay.
So this isn't going to be that quick. What does a day of eating look like to you? Just at a high level.
Yeah.
How many meals?
I'm a creature of habit. I do 4 meals. Usually I have breakfast, lunch, a snack, and dinner, and then maybe a little something sweet after. But I'm pretty basic. Whatever I can take with me to work is the easy part. So
okay. What does a day of training look like for you?
So I usually lift 4 days a week and do a really nice body split. But like we were saying earlier, I know I need 3 days between leg days. So I got Tuesday and I got Saturday. Sure. So I just know my body in that sense. And then I love to do a spin class on a Wednesday. And then Friday is usually my play day. I just do something that sounds fun and different. I might swim. I might go do the elliptical. I might go for a walk. And then Sunday I do 0.
Okay. What's your favorite dessert?
Oh, Dairy Queen Blizzard, Butterfinger.
My kids would love you. My daughters would love you. Okay. Favorite vacation? Anywhere
on the beach.
Okay. What's your bedtime?
8:30.
Okay. That's late for me. What are you learning or experimenting with in your life right now?
I'm learning a lot of what we just talked about, slowing down. I'm 44. Yeah. I was a competitive athlete. I like to train hard. I want to train hard, but my body, it needs more time. It needs more low impact stuff. And I've got to turn down the volume a little bit. So I'm working on that.
Okay. As we start to wind down, if you could give our listeners one action you want them to take, what would that one action be?
Yeah, I think just be honest with yourself. I think sometimes we don't want to see the very thing that's holding us back. Like you said, whether that's not sleeping or not taking a day off or not pushing ourselves hard enough and thinking we're pushing hard. Yeah. We know. Yeah. I think we all know. We just don't want to see the thing we don't want to see. So I would say my advice would be to just do some introspection, and it's probably something that you see that could be the answer to moving forward.
Okay. Well, thank you. How can people best reach you?
My website's the best place to find contact information. I always do a free discovery call, so you can book a call if you're curious. There's downloads and resources, free resources if you just want some information and links and whatnot. So workwithdrtiff.com is my website, and I would love to hear from y'all.
Perfect. And I'm pointing down because that's where the show notes are going to be. I'll put a link to your website in the show notes, and then they can go to your website to book a discovery call with you if they're interested. And then you also have a book. Where could they get your book?
Yeah, that's on my website as well. So the Metabolic Makeover, it's on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, but all those links are right on the homepage of my website. So that's probably the quickest place. Yep.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you, Dr. Tiff. I appreciate your time. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Busy People Getting Fit. If today's chat with Dr. Tiff helped you rethink your metabolism, then grab her book, The Metabolic Makeover. And while you're at it, check out my book, 1 Minute Fitness. Go right here, 1 Minute Fitness, for simple ways to stay strong and consistent, even when life gets busy. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and please, please, please share this episode with a friend. See you next time. Bye.